So joining me now is Andrés Tapia, a senior client partner at Korn Ferry and a JFF board member. Andrés, welcome.
Yeah, good to be here with you.
So Andrés, we've had quite a day at Horizons and a couple of days here. And one key theme that we've seen through all of this is the importance of leadership. So we heard from the secretaries leading federal agencies this morning, focused on some of the nation's largest problems. We heard from some of our country's largest employers and those in the education space. So I know, Andrés, that leadership, especially inclusive leadership, is something that really animates your professional work. Could you reflect a little bit on this moment and the opportunities and responsibilities of leadership at this time?
Yes, this moment, right? This moment is momentous in that a lot of things are at stake. Not only in our own personal lives, but in the life of the planet. We're facing existential threats about just the livability of planet Earth. And then even back on the ground here, we're facing some existential threats in terms of being able to hold our fragile societies together. There's a lot of civil strife due to racism or other forms of polarization, not only in the U.S. but in many other countries, including my country, Peru. And it has a cascading effect, right? That the pandemic, which is a once in 100-year event, was bad in and of itself, but it also surfaced things that were already structurally problematic, in terms of access to education, access to health, access to technology, et cetera. So we are in a very fragile moment. And to your question about inclusive leadership, it is the time for a different kind of leadership. Because in many ways, the kind of leadership that we've had in institutions, for-profit, nonprofit, governmental, education, somehow, somewhere, it has failed us. Because for us to be facing such existential threats and such fragility and such displacement of our populations and vulnerability tells us that we haven't led as well as we should have and could have. So inclusive leadership is the kind of leadership we need in the moment, because so much of our vulnerabilities have to do with exclusion. People don't have access to health and education and jobs and economic opportunities, right? And all those things. So we have to be inclusive in whatever solutions we come up with, number one. Number two, we're not going to solve it by relying on the same talent and leader profile that we've had. We need a diversity of talent. We need a diversity of leadership. We need alternative ideas, not only from a creativity and innovation perspective, but we need alternative perspectives, because those are the very alternative perspectives we're not taking into account, not only for the sake of those populations, but we need those ideas for the sake of everybody.
Yeah, no, that really resonates. And we have a lot of leaders listening here, so hopefully we'll be able to continue that train of thought. One last question, if I could, even though I know we're a little bit behind time. Our day today has been really future focused. We've been trying to think about the future. And so if you think ahead, you sort of squint about that equitable future we're trying to build, what are some of your hopes and aspirations? And what do you think we should be doing right now as the first few steps to get us there?
Yeah, as an innovator, I always think about technology, new ways of thinking, new paradigms, and all those things. And there's a place for that. But my simple answer right now is my aspiration for the future is that we be empathetic toward one another. So much of the strife that we have and the polarization is that we simply are not seeing each other. We're not hearing each other. We're not seeing each other. And we're not therefore able to take each other into account. And in the end, it's not about doing it for other people only. And there's a lot of people resistant to that idea because there's sort of a inherent self-interest. But just from a self-interested perspective, if I don't see you and I don't see others, and I don't see that we're in this together and that we are facing the same existential threats, made to obviously different degrees, but when it comes to the planet and the fragility of our society, that's going to affect and is affecting every single one of us. So I think empathy and kindness and really being able to see who others are and taking that into account, that's what I hope for the future.
Great. Well, thanks, Andrés, for those words of wisdom. It's, I think, a really great place for us to end. We're going to have to leave our conversation there, but thanks again for joining us.